Happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us today for Humanities at Play. My name is Kathleen Kuo, and I'm a program manager with Nevada Humanities, which is our state's council partner of the National Endowment for the Humanities. With Humanities at Play, our goal is to pair gameplay and other interactive activities with thoughtful discussions about the humanities and how they enrich our everyday lives. Welcome in, everyone. Thanks so much for the warm welcomes. A couple quick notes before we get started. If you are a first-time Twitch user, welcome. Thanks so much for being here with us today. Thank you for lurking and being here behind the scenes. If you would like to chat with us and ask questions, though, I highly encourage you to make a free account, and that way you can type in chat if you have any questions for me or our guests today. We also have a very fun feature called a chat command if you're new to Twitch, and this is an exclamation point followed by a keyword. We have a list of commands that you're welcome to try out listed in the About section on our Twitch page. Also, they're in our title of our stream, and also we have some we have some great moderators and guests typing them in right now. So thank you, John and Tan, for doing that, demonstrating how chat commands work. So today, I am super excited to have joining me on Humanities at Play, Constancio R. Arnaldo Jr. Constancio is an assistant professor of Asian American Studies in the Interdisciplinary Gender and Ethnic Studies Department at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. As a cultural anthropologist, his research examines Filipinx American sporting cultures with a focus on boxing spectacles through the figure of boxing superstar Manny, Pac-Man Pacquiao, and everyday sporting practices such as basketball and flag football. A child of immigrant parents from the Philippines, Constancio grew up in the Bay Area and was a first-generation college student. He finds hella joy through gardening, hiking, cooking, and playing basketball. So Constancio, welcome. Hello.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
Yeah, this is very exciting. I know this is new, this is sort of a new realm for you, so I really appreciate you diving in with me. I'm very excited about the game that we're playing together on stream today. I've never played it before. This game just came out 2 weeks ago. It came out on July
Oh, wow.
31st. And so when I heard of it, I was like, Constancio, can we play this? And I think you said yes. I think I had another game originally, a different game planned for you. And so when you said yes to this one, I was really glad because now we have a chance to try it out. So for those of you who haven't heard of Venba, this game takes place over 3 decades, start in the 80s, and then we go up to what is probably about present day. We are the main character, Venba, who is an Indian mother who immigrates to Canada in the 80s, and we are trying to restore her lost recipes from her family cookbook. And so this is kind of a cozy cooking, narrative, and puzzle game, and we're going to explore this together. We're going to play about an hour of it, so we won't finish the whole game, but we'll play probably about half of it or most of it, and then we'll take about a 5-minute break before coming back for a more focused Q&A with Constancio. So I hope over the course of the stream, if you have any questions for us, please feel free to put them in a chat or ask them during the second half. We always love to hear from everyone, though. So, all right, Constancio, I'm going to get this game loaded up for everyone else in chat. Get hydrated, get comfy, and come ready to learn and play with us. So, all right, Constancio, I'm going to load this game. I can't stress how excited I am. I've been wanting to play this for forever. So you gave me an excuse to play
All
this.
right.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Okay. All right. Can you see and hear this?
Yes.
All right, perfect. All right. And everyone in chat, if you need the music turned up, let me know. I hear that this game has a pretty banging soundtrack, so really excited. I love this old school cassette. This is great.
Hmm.
All right, here we go. Okay, think well before you dare and never ruminate. Once in action. 1988. Are you a child of the 80s, Constancio?
Yes.
Okay. So maybe you can, yeah. I think both of us have a lot to relate to this game. I think both of us are children of immigrant parents who came to
For
the US
sure.
from Asian cultures. So this probably speaks to us. Leaving already?
Oh, sorry. Did I wake you?
What time is it?
Hey, how are you feeling?
Okay, Tired or nauseous? I'm gonna say tired.
Okay.
That's probably how that, just like yesterday, tired.
Uh, okay, I'll call your school and say you can't come in today. And I was just about to leave for work. You should go back to sleep.
What about your lunch? There's some leftover idli batter and garlic chutney from yesterday. You can steam some idlis quickly. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
I don't know if I can figure all that out. It's okay. I was just about to leave.
It's just idlis, very easy.
It'll take me too long, Venba. Don't worry. I can just survive on the coffee machine.
Oh no. Oh. Oh, okay. I can either say okay or fine, I'll make it then. I mean, I don't want you, I assume you're my husband. I don't want you to starve with coffee. So I'm gonna make you some food. I'll make
Mhm.
it. Wait 5 minutes.
Venba, really, it's fine.
No, no, no. I need to make lunch for myself anyway. Just tell the school. I'll be done in a minute.
Okay.
I find it interesting that the blanket, do you see that airplane symbol on it? I wonder if it's one of
Yeah.
those like United
Probably from the
blanket.
airlines. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. Title screen. Oh, I look so tired. Okay, let's get this done fast. Although, should I try my mother's recipe for once? The way I make idlis are never as soft as hers, and they would always cheer me up when I'm feeling sick. Uh, I mean, in chat, the Tan says, I know the feeling, just survive on a coffee machine. And Silver Pit says, Idli. Google says it's a steamed rice cake. I've already learned a new thing. Yeah, me too. I've heard of like naan
Yeah.
and yeah, a lot of other, I think there's just so many Indian foods I've never heard of. This is a wonderful
Mhm.
entry point. I should just make them her way today. Steamed rice cake does sound good.
Yeah.
Hmm. If the recipe is still readable, that is. Oh, some good music. I hope everyone can hear this. This is great. All right.
Ooh.
Okay. Idli plate, towel. Oh my gosh. Will my brain work? We have a cooker. We have water and batter. This is very
Mm-hmm.
cool. This is, I guess, so there's holes to let steam through. These also have holes so the batter can cook. Make sure to. Okay, so this is where like her,
Oh,
yeah, so the cookbook is like damaged in some places. So sometimes you have to guess. So we have to make sure to do something. Oh no, or it will leak. Arrange the plate so the steam can cook the batter properly. Okay, I'll do my best. I have not made idli with these kinds of plates before. The only difference from mine seems to be the holes on the plates. Tan says, what a place for the page to be torn. I know, right? How convenient. The recipe also calls her towels. I'm not sure why. But Amma swears this method makes the idlis a lot softer. Okay. We have water. I think we should put water in there. Okay, but we have a batter, towel for some mysterious reason, and a plate. Do you do a lot of cooking, Constancio?
I do. I was gonna say maybe the towel helps keep the idlis
Like damp?
moist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my guess is maybe we'll put the water in first to get it to boil. We'll see. Yeah.
Okay.
Is there like an on button? Oh. Oh. I should close the lid before turning on the stove. I see. Okay, so I
Okay.
put water in. Maybe the plate? Wait, oh no, that's the lid. Plate and then batter? Oh, no point putting a plate.
Um,
Oh,
yeah, you probably
okay.
have to put the batter in.
Oh, that's very convenient. It did it all for me. Okay, do you think towel goes on over the lid or before we put the lid on?
Mm, I think before that we put the lid on.
Oh, nope. I don't think I should
No.
cover the batter. Well, it's very nice. We're learning. We're learning. All right, so let's do the lid. Oh, nope. There's 3 plates? Okay. All right. There's more plates. I didn't even
So you
see
gotta
that.
probably make more batter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Put more batter in the plate.
Wow, this is
There
very
you go.
cool. I wonder if there's like a traditional way of cooking them. I love this. Okay. Oh, and then there's... I can turn this?
You're gonna turn it.
Wait. Wait. Oh no, I wonder if I put them in wrong. Like, do you stack them so they don't... Why do we rotate these? We'll find out.
Yeah.
Towel? Maybe not yet. I don't think I should cover the batter with a towel. Okay. All right, let's see how it turns out.
All right.
Okay, it's for the steam, says John. I'll find out. It's a secret Italy combination lock. All right, that should be long enough. Let's remove the lid and see how it turned out. Oh no! It seems the batter leaked through the plate holes and split everywhere. Spilled everywhere. Let's try again. Okay. Okay, water. Batter. Last time I added the batter like this. Oh, the batter leaked through the tiny holes. Let's try something different. Maybe the towel would help stop the leak.
Maybe put the towel first.
Can
No.
I?
There you go.
Oh, interesting. Oh, so you put the towel on the plate before the batter?
Oh.
Maybe?
And then it goes on top.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think we figured it out.
Yeah, and then maybe when I put the next plate, I'll rotate it. Oh, wait, towel?
Batter.
Okay, then can I rotate this? Oh no, okay, it just rotates the whole thing. Never mind. Interesting. I've never put a towel on top, like, you know, before the batter. Usually it's the batter and then a towel next.
Yeah, so now it helps prevent the batter from going through the holes.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, let's... Fingers crossed. All right, let's see how it turns out. Sorry, husband, this might take more than 5 minutes.
That's okay. It doesn't give me an option to help you or like to do this together.
I know. So. That should be long enough. Let's remove the lid and see how it turned out. It looks like only the bottom plate cooked.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe the steam from the water didn't reach the upper plates. There must be an orientation of these plates that would let the steam pass freely. Okay, so there is that kind of like, all right, Constancio, 3rd time's a charm.
Let's do it.
This is very fun though. I like that the Hess is element. So we really are cooking. So I think maybe we have to stack these so they're not on top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And Silver Pelt says, putting a towel in a cooker makes me nervous, but if it works, it works. I know, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now that's oriented. Then we have this, and then I add the plate now, but the steam holes of the bottom plate actually cook the batter of the top plate. Maybe I can rotate the plate in the cooker to align the steam holes better. Uh-oh. But I can't take this plate off. Oh no.
Wow.
Sir. Are there any Filipino foods that are similar to this? I'm curious, like rice or steamed batter.
Steamed batter. I don't know if this counts, but it's called siopao. It's like a steamed bun.
Sounds good.
But I've never made it before, so I don't know how to make it. All right.
We did it. I look so tired. I mean, I just had to do this 3 times, right? Oh, look at the little smiley faces. That's so sweet. I think this is you reading this. I think you're purple.
Oh, wow. You even took the time to make our faces. I think you forgot about my beard, though. You really didn't have to do this.
What else could I do? My husband can't figure out Italy's.
Venba, I told you to go to sleep. You've been feeling sick and exhausted. You didn't have to cook. It's not a big deal if I skipped lunch once.
Pavalon. You're making me choose between resting and letting you starve. That's not a fair choice to me.
You're not letting me starve.
I know, but that's what it feels like. And even if I had let you leave, okay, so I could either say if I'd let you leave, I couldn't sleep peacefully. Or what will I do for lunch? I think I'll be nice and say I couldn't sleep peacefully. And yes,
Okay.
Silver, yeah. To be fair, we did have to figure it out, and I do apologize for forgetting the beard. I'd feel too guilty. I know I shouldn't, but you know I would. Is it so hard for you to cook, even on days like this? So there's like some gendered, like household gendered
Mm-hmm.
separation.
You're right. Sorry.
Did you look for tickets back home?
Yes, it's expensive, but we can manage it.
So, do you think we should go?
I don't know. Let me ask the boss again if he can make me full time. Oh. But unless the school gives you more shifts or my boss changes his mind, it's going to be tough to stay in Canada.
You know, there are other options, but I wouldn't mind going back. Oh, so I'm not happy here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I can teach again at my old job. And there's nothing really keeping us here.
That would be nice. Okay, well, why don't you leave with me now? I'll walk you to the doctor's office before I go to work.
Oh no, I'm sure all I need is some sleep.
You've been saying that for 2 days now.
Oh no.
Come on, I'll walk you. Doctors are free here.
What is that exclamation? What is that? The quotation marks, yeah. Free.
I like the mask.
Yeah, the art is really beautiful too. Like I like how
Mm-hmm.
it's like hand drawn, has that kind of quality. Oh, this is lovely.
I think it's the first time we've seen her smile, maybe.
Yeah. I feel like I need to read more interviews with the developers, but I feel like this is kind of a love letter to, to like immigrant mothers and just
Mm-hmm.
um so many little details. Here I am making more idlis.
Venba, are you home? What'd the doctor say? So the boss didn't even consider it. Unless a miracle happens, I say we start packing.
Oh no. And welcome in, Kevtaku. Thanks for being here.
What? What's with you? You never told me what the doctor said.
That's right. I'm smiling. I have good news. Well, I think you should eat first.
Oh, okay.
Your eyebrows. I like how like one's higher, like already kind of skeptical.
Eat least again?
Ah!
What has gotten into you today?
Oh. Did I make it? Look at them. Oh. There's no beard, but oh. That's so sweet.
Now they have something keeping him there too.
Yeah, and welcome in, Bentley. Thanks so much for being here.
So I guess this means we have a reason to stay. I mean, raising a child back home wouldn't be so bad either. But there's a chance at a very different life here. It's only going to get more expensive though, and we're barely scraping by as it is. We can't provide everything other parents would be able to. What if they resent us for that when they grow up?
Man, I am having feels now. I'm like,
Yeah.
how did my parents feel when they moved here? My goodness.
Maybe moving back to India is the best option after all.
Oh.
But then they could resent us for taking away this opportunity. What do you think, Venba? Why aren't you saying anything?
I don't know. It's funny to see you worry like this.
Are you not worried?
I don't know. I feel very calm for some reason.
That makes one of us.
Pavlon, don't worry. I'm sure they will turn out just fine.
How can you be so sure?
It's our child. How else could they turn out? When did your family move to the US?
So my parents came in the 60s.
Okay. So they were here for a while, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, this is 1994. Oh,
My name is Pavlon, sir. Pavlon, sir.
Kevin, where did you run off to?
Sir, it would be my privilege to work with you.
Ooh.
Pardon me, sir?
I don't have time to play, Kevin. I have a lot of work to do.
Yes, sir. I've managed transport of hundreds of units of inventory per day. Pardon me, sir?
Kevin, there you are. What are you wearing? Where's your shirt? It's a cape. I'll do his voice. Take that off. Let's get you dressed. No, I like it.
That job was in India, sir, but
Kevin, wait there. Don't run. Kevin, come back here. This has become a routine now.
yes, sir. Bachelor of Science in Physics, sir.
Silver says the cape gives him more speed. It's true. Ew, that towel is so dirty, duh. Here, wear this shirt, Kana. No!
But, sir, you can just take me on a probation period, maybe? I'm driven, self-started, and a quick learner, sir.
Put this on, Kana. Hurry up now. I like this, like, sort of like dual, conversation going on here. It's a nice way to advance the narrative. But I don't want to. Speak in Tamil, Kevin. I can't even understand what you're saying.
You don't have to pay until then.
Please, Kana.
I understand, sir.
Yes, good boy.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Can't tell if that's good or bad.
Yeah. Thank you for considering me. Good day.
Hello, Mr. Bachelor of Science. What happened?
Same old.
Okay, so either I didn't buy the hundreds of units of inventory, so I'm telling you it's time for it to go. Huh. I don't know. What do you think I should choose? What is it?
I'd say, yeah, I don't know what that means. So let's do that one.
This one?
I'm telling you.
Okay.
I'm telling you it's time for it to go.
Oh. Oh,
what?
no.
My beard?
You chose my beard to go.
This is a phone interview. Your clean shave theory doesn't hold water here. I spent half these calls asking them to repeat themselves. I should watch cartoons with Kevin. If I can understand those shows, maybe I can understand these people too.
Yay! We can watch Batman together, Appa. Yes, but your son is going to forget Tamil at this rate. Did you know his friends call him Kevin? What's wrong with that?
Speaking Tamil da.
Well, what's wrong with that? It's only one letter that's different anyways. Ooh. I like names
Um,
tell stories. I really
yeah,
like that.
there's so much to talk about here too.
Yeah, yeah. It's a way for people to learn about you and where you're from.
Mhm.
You shouldn't be afraid to correct your friends. Yeah, are there any name like stories about names in your own family or yeah.
Well, especially for my name, I'm named after my late father. But growing up, I was called Junior.
Ah.
And so up until like my master's as a grad student, I was like, once I start my PhD program, I'm going to tell people my name is Constancio. So in one way to honor my father's name, but also to embrace more of my Filipino identity.
Mhm.
And so I've had a history of people like give me nicknames or asking if they could give me a nickname or just nicknaming me without my permission. And so just this morning, um, I said hi to somebody and I introduced myself, and she was like, "Do you have a nickname?" And at first, I'm like, "I used to," but I was like, "No, I don't have a nickname. You can just say Constancio." And I said,
Mhm.
"If you just say it enough, like you'll get it." And sure enough, she got it. And so I think it reminds me of histories of how um, students of color get renamed by their
Mm.
teachers without their permission,
Yeah.
or their names get anglicized, or they just get names that are imposed upon them without actually asking if it's okay to nickname their students, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
No, I'm
yeah,
glad you brought that up. There are a lot of really interesting articles out there, right, about yeah, children
yeah,
from other cultures who are, they get the more anglicized names or the names that are easier to say. Although, if we can say like Schwarzenegger or like I don't
exactly,
know, fettuccine, it's not so hard to say like some other names. Constancio.
right.
Thank you for sharing that. Um, yeah, it's a lot to think about. I hope that people in chat, if you have any stories like that, feel free to share them as well. It's your name after all. Who else is going to tell them? And Kavin means beautiful. It's such a lovely name, and
Um,
it suits you so well. I don't want to be beautiful. I just want to be Kevin. Ah, so we already see some like, you know,
mhm.
opposition here. Mm.
He's brighter than us, Venba. He's learned to adapt. We haven't. You know, he aced yesterday's English quiz.
He did. Really? Good job. We should celebrate Dakana. What do you want to eat? I'll make something special. Ooh. Can we order pizza? Speak in Tamil, Kavin. I want pizza. Okay, so I can say, how about something better, or how about we make something at home? I like how about something better,
Yeah.
like parota,
Dosa,
idiyappam,
ghee dosa,
biryani.
curry dosa.
No, I'm tired of all these. I said I want pizza, extra cheese, extra toppings. You eat pizza all the time, Kavin. Have you ever had putu? No. What's that? Well, I've only seen my mother make it before. It's a lot of fun to make. Reminds me of a rocket. Rocket? Yes, a lot of steam comes out when you make it. It looks just like a rocket launching. It does? Yes. But you know what? Let's just order pizza. There's no rocket, but you get a nice cardboard box. Oh, there's some reverse psychology happening here. Will it really look like a rocket launch? Do you want to see? Love that. All right, let's get started. I haven't made this before, but Amma has a recipe on it. Hopefully, it's readable. Where's the rocket?
We need to make the flour first, duh. Damn, I gotta do the flour.
Okay, here's some more good music. All right. Okay, we got rice and water. So we blend the rice. We separate the rice from the chunks. Ah, another sort of very convenient, I don't know, something about the
Yeah.
chunks. And then combine the rice with the water. Okay, so blend the rice, separate the rice,
Mhm.
something, and then combine it. Huh. I wonder what you do with the chunks.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's make some flour. This might be you.
When do we get to the rocket part?
Soon. Oh, maybe that's you.
Soon, da. Be patient.
Okay, so we have soaked rice, the blender, a sieve. Oh, okay, and water. All right, so let's put rice and water.
Water.
Well, recipe says adding flour to the rice is the final step. Do you think this is right? It's a bit chunky, isn't it? Put to flour should feel like slightly wet sand. I think we need to use the sieve. Let's try again. Oh no. Okay. Alright, so we have the blended rice now.
Mhm.
Do I... Oh no. Huh. Do you think we... Can I... Oh, oops. Adding flour to the rice is the final step. Okay.
This is right.
How do I use the sieve with this? Alright, this is just trial and error.
Yeah.
This is making me hungry. I want to make all of these. Do this. Okay, shake it over the towel. I see. Okay, so it's kind of like a puzzle. We have to like figure out what in what order.
Okay.
Did you cook a lot with your family when you were growing up?
So my late father was a cook in the Navy.
Okay.
And then when he passed away, my mom basically had to like cook for us. So I remember watching what she would make. I don't know that I was, when I went to college is when I really started to cook for myself or friends, you know.
Okay, we have a mystery. So we have, you got the chunks. Should we combine it with water? Oh no, what do we do? So there's something with a towel and the water. I mean, do I put it back in here? Okay, adding flour to the rice is the
Well,
final
recipe
step.
says adding.
Okay,
Oh.
this is way too runny. We must have added less than 500 grams of rice. We need to find a way to use all of it. Wow, okay, this really makes you do it all from scratch.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all right. We get to
So
we get to chat
blended
about
it?
food. I did, and then I shook it over this.
Just over this.
Okay, so almost all of it's out. Okay,
Okay, so those are the chunks.
I think so. Do we put them back? Oh, do we blend them? Do we take the leftover chunks and redo it until we have
And
enough?
then it gets more smooth.
That might be it. Teamwork.
All right.
I hope this is right. What do people do when you don't have
That's getting
blenders?
bigger.
Yeah. And there's still more. We'll just keep doing this until there's no more chunks. My mom didn't let me cook when I was growing up. I could make like brownies, but that was really it.
Why wouldn't she let you cook growing up?
I'm not sure. I think, well, I had like an accident in the kitchen when I was very younger, so I think she just, didn't want that to happen again. But also, yeah, it's really too bad now that I'm older. I'd like to learn more like Taiwanese recipes from my mom. Now that we're like older and we live apart, I don't get to see her a lot, and it's something that I would like to do. Yeah, Silver says I wasn't allowed around the oven either when I was young. Okay, we got all of our chunks out, so I think we add it to the water now.
All right.
I think this is perfect.
Why does this feel like flour even though there was so much water?
We have to mix the water and flour little by little. The final consistency should feel like slightly wet sand. All right, that wasn't too hard. It was a little bit hard. Amma, when will we get to the rocket? Okay, round 2.
All right, more rockets.
Oh. Okay, so there's somehow layers involved of flour and coconut. So water, 3 tablespoons of something, 4 tablespoons of something. Put coconut layers as far away from each other as possible. So maybe this is the coconut. Is it like 1 layer coconut?
And then the flour.
Yeah, so...
And then the coconut.
Yeah, so maybe, 1 tablespoon of coconut, 2 of water, 1 of coconut, 2 of water, 1 of coconut. I hope.
What about the flour?
Yeah, that's a good question. Right, where does the flour go? Okay, the tricky part is figuring out how much rice, rice and coconut is needed. And in what order coconut can crumble easily. Oh, let's look at this again. Okay, so, right, the rice is the flour.
Okay.
But do we combine
the water
them?
is at the bottom.
This is the kettle. So maybe here's the water.
Mm-hmm.
This reminds you of making have you ever made mocha pot coffee? You do know what I'm talking about? There's like it's a mocha pot is like a way that it's like an Italian way of making coffee where it's just like this. You fill up the water, you put the rocket part on top, but then all the grounds at the bottom, when you heat up the water, they get pushed up by steam into this part. So you can make like espresso that way.
How is it? I'm assuming it tastes really good.
It's strong. Yeah, it's good. It's a different way of making it. Okay, I'm just gonna look at this again. So we've done the water. 3 tablespoons. I mean, is it flour and? Oh, maybe it's coconut. 2 of the rice, coconut, 2 of the rice. So this wasn't the water. I thought this was the water, but it must be the rice. Okay, so here's the coconut. 1. And then we'll do 2 of flour. Although the color looks different, but that's okay. They said coconut as far from each other as possible, so I'll just do this. As long as we don't have to remake the flour after this, I'm okay with it. We mess it up. Okay. Fingers crossed. It's lunchtime, Coven. Okay.
All right.
Yay! Wow! That was so cool!
Venba, I can't believe it didn't fall.
Amma, can we do that again? Oh, that looks really good. We're unable to offer you our secondary teacher position at this time. However, we encourage you to apply again next year. That's rough. Is he asleep?
I think so. Coven? Yes, he is.
Good. So that interview, another dead end?
Yes. I think I knew that before I took the call. No relevant Canadian work experience.
Man, it's so hard. Like even like sometimes like when you apply to like an entry job and it's like you need like 3 years of experience, but it's an entry job. How am I supposed to get experience if I don't have experience?
We'll keep you on file. I don't know. I feel like I deluded us into thinking we can make it work here.
Oh no.
Well, don't worry. I'll go to the employment office again tomorrow. What?
I know you don't like Suresh, but I think you should take that sales job at his company. Okay, so it's all about who you know here, or we really are at the end of our rope. I mean, I feel like this, when we say end of our rope, it feels like we've given up. So I might just say,
Mm.
it's all about who you know here.
Yeah.
And we barely know anyone. We're not in a position to pick and choose our help.
I thought moving here would be a chance to start over. That even here, we still have to beg people like Suresh.
It's not begging.
I know. I'll call him tomorrow.
Thank you.
But honestly, I think you're more qualified for sales than I am. I mean, the way you sold Kevin on that pootie today, you're really good with kids. I can't believe you're having a hard time teaching in school.
Well, it's not like teaching back home. It makes me worry about Kevin.
Why?
Well, back home, I could get the class to laugh, open up, get them in the mood to learn. But it's harder here.
What does that have to do with Kevin?
I just feel like there's a wall between me and my class. I can't connect with them. They lead very different lives than we did. And I feel that same wall growing around Kevin.
How do you mean?
What if I can't connect with Kevin? Okay, so I can say it's so hard to even talk to him, or it just feels like he's growing further away from us. I don't know. What do you think?
I think, I don't know, for me, as I guess a child of immigrant parents, I felt at times I grew away from especially my mom.
Yeah.
I think part of it is like when you're a child of immigrant parents, like they know one way because they lived, let's say, because they grew up in the Philippines. And
Yeah.
so their way of parenting was different. And because I was immersing myself in American societal norms,
Yeah.
customs, and all that, like I think part of me or even my brothers, we were trying to find ways to like fit in, right?
Right.
And maybe at times it did feel like we were like growing apart, but ultimately still making it back because she was our mom, right?
Yeah. And Chat
So
Silver says he's growing away from the culture and language, so it can feel like he's growing away from them. That's understandable. Yeah. So let's say that. The other day, he told me he wished he had his own room, like his friends. He said he needs his privacy. What 5-year-old needs privacy? Can you even imagine asking for something like that when you're a kid? So yeah, here's another sort of like cultural thing. I know that my father grew up in a traditional Hakka longhouse in Taiwan. And so like no one had like you always shared like everything with everyone. And then he had many siblings. So yeah, to imagine asking for like your own room, like
yeah,
in the US, like it's like of course, but back home it's like no, everyone's all together. It's like he's in a different world than us. Well, it's more than just that. He doesn't eat lunch at school. Oh no. Or he's not interested in anything we do. Hmm. The lunch thing makes me a little bit sad.
do you have like lunch stories? Because I know that I've heard it from friends,
Um,
my own family.
I personally don't have lunch stories growing because my mom didn't like she made like sandwiches and we had like Lunchables, but I do have friends who absolutely did, bring things like kimchi
Mhm.
to school and then it's like, oh, it's like super smelly. But actually in
Right.
college, so not even like when I was younger, when I was in college, my mother and my father, like, they would always like, I went to U Chicago and I grew up in the suburbs of Illinois. So I would go home on the weekends, they would send me back to school with like, goodies and snacks. And have you ever had that like dried squid, like the dried squid that comes in the packages? It's so good, right?
Yeah.
But it's smelly, I'll give it that.
Yeah.
But I grew up with it, so it's smelly, but Smells delicious to me, but my roommate hated it. She hated the squid. So I think she threw it away once. And I was like, you threw away my dried squid? So I absolutely get this, right? And we were college, we were like 18, 19. It wasn't even like little kids. It was
Mhm.
yeah, college students at U Chicago. So someone who grew up
Yeah.
like very sheltered, and I don't think she'd ever had instant ramen either. That was very new to her. Like I think the first time she made it, like I had to explain, how you open a packet and you like put in the
Ramen
seasoning.
was so good.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I always think about my dried squid story and how my roommate like basically like
Yeah.
forbade me from eating it in our room, which is like crazy to me now because as an adult I'm like, I'll do my, you can't tell me what to do, but back then
Yeah.
it's like, oh, okay, like sorry.
Well, cooking with fish sauce, we call it patis, but fish sauce is pungent, but
Mm,
it gives so much good saltiness, savoriness that like whenever I cook, especially Filipino food, that's one of the things I love to use to flavor and season like a soup, right? Or a
yeah.
sauce.
I can
So
taste it right now. I love fish sauce, but yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I'm gonna say he doesn't eat lunch at school and see if that unlocks like an avenue that goes down his path. He brings it back every day with some excuse. Yeah, there we go.
Uh,
I don't know if the other kids make fun of him for it. And in chat, John says, I was pretty much forbidden to eat and make tuna fish sandwiches just due to the smell, which I thought was funny. With my roommates, that is. With your grown up roommates, you're not allowed to make tuna fish sandwiches?
dang.
Man, I'm sorry. I hope,
Yeah.
yeah,
Sorry, John.
yeah. Now that if when you, they don't like the smell, yeah, understandable, but make your tuna fish sandwiches. Own it. Own that tuna fish. Or if he's embarrassed. I don't know. I'm worried.
These things bother me too. But we chose to bring him up here, not him. And we did it because we thought he'd have a better life here. And he does. This place comes with better education and opportunities.
I think that's like absolutely why my parents moved to the States. So my dad got his PhD at the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, which is where
Mm-hmm.
my brother was born. And then he got a job teaching in Illinois, which is, a few years later, which is where I was born. But I think they always just had it in mind that the US had better opportunities. I mean, now, education, like, I don't know, I think Taiwan has like a very, like, extremely, like, they're all about education. And, like, after you're done with school, you go to like second school, you go to like, your after school, like, your second set of classes. But I definitely think they wanted to move here because they wanted a better life for me and my siblings.
Mm-hmm. But it also comes with its own culture, language, values. We can't pick and choose the ones we want and ask him to ignore from the others. And I think it's natural that any kid wants to fit in, right?
Yes, maybe. It's just scary.
Don't worry, Venma. He'll turn out just fine.
How are you so sure?
He's our child.
Ah, now it's flipped around.
How else will he turn out?
Oh. Those fallen from their resolve are stripped of respect, like hair fallen from the head, 1995. So the following year. So it's just a year later, not too much further in time. I think we have time to play this chapter all the way through before we take our break, if you're okay with
Wow,
that,
that went
Constancio.
by fast.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know, right? Go on. Tell her. His name is Pavalon. He's my dad. Paavalan. She says Appa is not at the office. Does she know what time he left? Do you know what time? Do you know when my dad left the office? Oh, I wonder why it's like smudged. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, does she at least know if he came in today? Oh, I bet I know. I bet they're talking in Tamil, and then, when he's like talking English, that's maybe when it's smudged, because it's harder
Mm.
for her. That's my guess. Did you see my dad today? Although it wasn't smudged there. Ask her if he usually leaves with anybody. Maybe we can call them? Ah, does he usually go home with someone? She says no. Dad usually leaves alone and he's very quiet. She says all the sales staff left at 5 p.m. today. She says he must have left then too. Okay, thank you. Hmm.
Hmm.
Oh no, what happened? Why are we walking through the park, Emma? You think Appa will be here? I don't know, Kana. Sometimes your Appa loves to walk instead of taking the bus. I'm getting some sad
Mhm.
vibes. I'm scared.
I'm
Oh,
worried.
yeah. If he decided to walk home from the office, it should be through here. But the lady said Appa left at 5. What's taking him so long? Do you think he went somewhere else first? But where would he go for this long? I don't know, Kevin. Enough with your questions. I know, Tan, I agree. Tan says, I have a feeling this is not going to end well. Hopefully I'm wrong. Sorry,
Mhm.
Kana, I'm just worried about Appa. Why are you worried? Do you think something happened to him? No, I'm sure he's fine. You don't have to stay quiet, Kevin. Here, you can ask me anything you want. Anything? Yes, and I'll answer it. I'll let you take his part for now in the absence of
Okay.
Appa. But only if you can ask it in Tamil. Okay?
Ooh, okay. I can do that.
Ahem. Okay?
Okay. I can do that. Why did that lady say that Appa is very quiet? He talks a lot at home.
Oh, look at you go. See, you can speak Tamil when you want to. Constancio, did you grow up speaking, different language at home, or was it always English with your parents?
It was always English. And so then years later, I asked my mom, why didn't you and dad try to teach us Tagalog, right? Which
Mm,
is the national language of the Philippines, or a dialect that she spoke, which was Ilocano.
mm,
And she told me that we didn't want to learn. And so I think it's interesting, like, I guess in some ways I can relate to Kavin
yeah,
because I said, I wish you would have just said that we had to,
yeah.
just so that we could remember and speak it. And so I had to, for my PhD exams, I had to like at least start getting a little better at speaking Tagalog. But to this day, I don't feel comfortable holding a conversation in it. And
Mm.
so, I think that was part of like us growing up um, in the US and speaking English at school with our friends, and then like our parents not reinforcing Tagalog. So, what about you?
Yeah, I guess I grew up speaking Mandarin Chinese with my parents, but not very well. And I went to Chinese school until I was about in third grade. So it was like, and by Chinese school I mean like after school, like on the weekends, like we'd go and go to a class and learn how to like read and write in Chinese. But when we moved to a different suburb, there wasn't Chinese school anymore. It was like a very like white suburb. So
Mm-hmm.
I like since then, the only Mandarin I speak is like very simple, what you would say at home with your parents, and similar to how your mom had like a separate dialect. My parents are Hakka, which is a like an ethnic subgroup of like mainland Chinese people who moved to Taiwan earlier last century, and they have like their own set of like different culture, different dialects, etc. And they reserved Hakka for when my siblings and I were in trouble. So they would like use Hakka to speak about us behind our backs. So for me, I don't understand a single word of it, but when I hear it, I think, am I in trouble? Like I just like I hear it. I'm like I like I just have that like sensory, like auditory, like they're I've done something wrong, or they just don't want
Mm-hmm.
me to know what they're saying. So
How do
yeah.
you spell Hakka? H A
K
K
K
A?
H A K K A.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I never, this was not made, they never like emphasized it or anything when I was growing up. And it wasn't until I was in college that I realized, I think this is kind of an important part of my identity, and I would love to know more about
Hmm.
it because I mentioned my father grew up in like a traditional Hakka longhouse, which is like a very specific type of architecture, and the government in Taiwan was going to bulldoze all of these old farmhouses, longhouses, etc., to make room for high-rise apartment buildings, and my
Um,
father's older brother work together with like the local council, and there's like a Hakka council on like revitalizing language and culture, and they preserved that house as a museum. So that museum is now there where my father grew up. His old house is now a
that's
museum,
cool.
and I would love to know more someday. So it's there's just like a whole like separate part of like my identity that I would in my heritage that I
Yeah.
don't know about, and I would love to for
Hmm.
sure. And in chat, John said that's what my mother told me as well. Your mother said that you didn't want to learn Spanish. Was that it? Is that what you're, you can tell us in chat. And then, yeah, he said yes. I see.
Hmm.
Yeah. And Silver says maybe the splotches are where either he struggles to speak Tamil or she struggles to understand English. Yeah, a lot to think
Hmm.
about. Hmm. I don't know. Maybe it's that they don't talk to him.
What do you mean?
Ah, nothing. He doesn't really like his job, Coven. Maybe that's why.
Wow. He was a writer back home, right? Did he like his job then?
Oh, yes, he loved to write.
How come I never see him write at home?
Well, he always writes when something bothers him. Back home, that used to be every day. Maybe you should bug him more. Okay, so we can. What do you think we
How
should
did
ask?
you and Appa meet? What did you do back home? I like the question about what his mom did back home.
Okay, so what did you do back home?
Yeah.
Same as here. I was a teacher, and not just a supply teacher. I taught math for 9 to 12th standard.
Were you a cool teacher?
What's a cool teacher?
Fun and easygoing? Like, were the kids scared of you?
Only kids named Coven. I don't know. I like to think I was good at it. My classes are always fun for the students, though I don't think I'm a cool teacher here. I miss those days.
But you teach here too.
It's not the same.
Why not?
I don't know. It's just not.
Why did you move here? Do you think you'll ever go back? I like, why did you move here?
Yeah. And oh, Silver has a really interesting observation. She notes, I like the small detail of how her words appearing faster on screen with Tamil and his appear slower when he's speaking it. I didn't even notice that.
Mm. Yeah, that's a great observation.
Yeah. It wasn't an easy choice. Pavlon wanted to be with me, and I couldn't imagine being with anyone else. But a lot of people took issue with us being together, and they decided to make it our problem. It was getting really hard to deal with it, so we gambled on a fresh start here and took it.
Ama, I see Appa.
Everything okay? Oh.
Oh.
Because he spelled his name wrong.
Hmm.
Oh. He's writing.
Mhm.
Well, Constancio, I am so sad to say that was, I guess we didn't get to cook. But what a, yeah, and now we're in 2006. So we're gonna take, I guess our break now, but I'll just let this first scene play out.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I just finished cutting up the onions too.
All right, so now that we're paused here, I don't know. I guess we could take a break, or we could cook. How are you feeling on time? I think it's okay to take a break. I would love to revisit this game with you in the near future if you'd be open to that. I'm sure you're probably
Sure.
wondering, what happens to Venba and Pavlon and Kavin. So, um, I do apologize. It was a very like sad scene, and now we're like, all right, to be continued next time.
Well, at
But
least they're
yeah,
like cooking and it like seems like they're going to do it together. So yeah, at
yeah.
least we're ending on a positive note in that
Yes,
way.
yeah. And it is interesting that it's like 9 years later and his glasses have apparently not been fixed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right, everyone, we're going to take a brief break, about 3 to 5 minutes, where we encourage everyone to stand up and stretch, go get water, and then we'll come back and have our more focused interview with Constancio. So we will see you very soon. I'm going to exit this game. We're going to go to quit, and I'll do exit to desktop. All right, so we'll take our break. We'll see you very soon. everyone. Welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us again. So, we are now ready to chat with Dr. Constancio Arnaldo Jr. from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. This is your chance to ask him any questions you might have about his research, about, his upcoming projects, fun questions about the West Coast, favorite food, that kind of thing. So I guess I'll get us started by, I always like to find out, people's origin stories, like how you got to where you are today. So my first question for you, Constancio, is, what made you go into cultural anthropology? So you're a cultural anthropologist, and I think a lot of kids don't grow up thinking, when I grow up, I want to be a professor and teach anthropology, at a university. Like what decisions or things in your life have sort of led you to where you are today?
What a great question. I love, and I love how you emphasize an origin story because we all have a story to tell. And sometimes our stories are never highlighted or centered. So I was, and I still remember this, I was like an undeclared third-year college student. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had a feeling that I wanted to teach, but I thought I wanted to teach like high school students. So I was really struggling as a third-year college student. And my eldest brother actually brought it up to me a couple of weeks ago. He was like, "Yeah, I remember when you were like stressed out about like not knowing what you wanted to do as a career." And I was like, "Dude, you remember that?" And so I had taken my first ethnic studies class called Filipino American Experiences, and it was an elective. And so I remember like wanting to learn about what it meant to be like Filipino American. I remember going to the local library like in middle school and like pulling out an encyclopedia and like trying to read about the Philippines, and it was like a paragraph and that was it. And so I took this class with a professor who eventually became my mentor, and doing really well in her class. And at that point, I was an okay student, but I wasn't really like into the subject matter. I remember trying to take like journalism classes. My mom was like, "Why don't you be a social worker so you can become a nurse?" And there's a stereotype that like if you're Filipino, especially if you're a Filipino American, that like you just become a nurse. And I was like, I don't want to be a nurse. I'm not really good at like anatomy and physiology. I was never really good at the sciences. And so I started taking more Asian American studies classes. And I remember her asking me, she was like, "Have you thought about getting a PhD?" And I was like, "I don't know what a PhD is." And then she, kind of explained it. And I did really well in my Asian American studies classes. And I then created a major called Interdisciplinary Studies, which is at the time a program that allowed you to mix different academic disciplines. And so I merged some Asian American studies courses and history, because at the time, Asian American studies wasn't a major when I was in college. And so then I took some time off before going back to school, and I turned to my mentor again. I was like, "I think I want to go back to school." And then so she helped me like think about what schools to go to, what schools to apply to. And I chose, first I went to get my master's in American studies. And then I went to the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign and got my PhD in cultural anthropology. And I think one of the things I like about cultural anthropology is when we think about culture, like it's everywhere. It's among us, right? But we take it for granted. And so I actually love learning what things mean for people, like whether it be food, sports, or things that mean things to people. And so like stuff like posters, like objects and frames and journals. And so I also like observing people. And so like I feel like maybe it's because when I was an undergrad, I took some methods courses, and then like interviewing people and asking people like certain questions, like it allows me to understand the significance of things that we take for granted, right? So making things that seem ordinary, making things seem ordinary, but like allowing other people to see that it's extraordinary. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
No, you absolutely did. I think, and that's great. I think I love how you take, right, like everyday practices and things, and you just make them you get people to think more critically about them.
Mhm.
As an example, when I was in graduate school, I think I took a course called material culture. And in that
Yes.
class, I remember like there was a book we read about sugar. It was like the history of, like where sugar came from, like
Oh,
just how like its importance has changed over time. Like I was thinking, like, we use salt and pepper and all these spices, in cooking all the time. And and now it's so common and every day, but a long time ago, like it was really difficult to get spices. So it's fun to think about like, yeah, how things have changed over time and how like the weight and value we place upon them has changed. Um, we also read a book. I don't remember its name right now, but it was about like secondhand clothes, like like the clothes that when you give them to like Goodwill or the Salvation Army, or you just donate them, like what happens to them and where do they end up? And then just the idea of clothes being moved to Africa and these like huge, like massive, like by like tons of clothes like compressed into like bricks, and then just being moved to another continent, and then like when they take on like a second life there or a third life or
hmm.
whatever. So really, yeah, I love how like things like, yeah, the clothes we're wearing, the headphones, like
Right.
anything can be of anything is worth studying. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up material culture because I've taught. It's like called COLA 100, so College of Liberal Arts 100, and it's for first year college students to take a course that colleagues and I teach, and we get to pick the topic. So my topic was thinking ethnographically,
Hmm.
and one of the actually I spent like maybe 2 weeks talking about material culture, and I asked students bring one object that you cannot absolutely live without, right? So they bring it to class and then they talk about it, and then I have them write a narrative about like the significance of why they brought a pair of glasses or a
Mm.
purse or a bag. And so it's a great way for me to learn about them, but also to learn about each other and like thinking about material culture and the deeper meanings that they attach to it. Like some of these stories that students share are so profoundly personal and intimate that like it's one of my favorite activities that I do with students.
That is such a good idea. And also welcome in Sheila. Thank you so much for being here. Um, as you know, Sheila's one of your colleagues at UNLV,
Hey,
Constancio.
Sheila.
So thank you so much for being here. Yeah. um, I would like chat to think about that question, actually answer. What is like an item that you could not live without? I would like people to type in that one item, and I would be
All
curious
right.
to hear. I guess while people think about those items, I guess we can think about sort of another question for you. So you talked about it's how you sort of found your way to cultural anthropology. And then you're interested in studying Asian American culture and specifically Filipinx culture. And so now you're wrapping up a book, which is very exciting. Can you tell us what your book is about?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So my book is about Filipinx, Filipino Americans, and their relationships to sports, either as fans, amateur athletes, casual spectators. And so the book kind of takes us through a boxing spectacle through the figure of Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao. So he's like an 8-time world boxing champion who was born in the Philippines, but has boxed in the US and other places like Macau, China. And so I talk about how a lot of second generation Filipino Americans that I interviewed and talked to, like they attach certain kind of meanings to him. And so I juxtapose like the boxing spectacle through his figure and talk about everyday sporting cultures and practices. So basketball leagues and flag football tournaments. So the basketball leagues primarily focus on Filipino American men, and the flag football tournament I talk about focus on primarily Filipino American women.
I
Um,
knew like I
yeah.
think I knew the name Manny Pacquiao, but I didn't know much about him. So I thank you for sharing that. And I think sports are kind of like they don't even like make my head. I think like the Olympics, so I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like the Olympics are happening, but I don't think about sports every day. And I know we probably have some sports fans in the chat, so I love that you're writing about it and just sharing this for people who might not know or want to explore this realm further. Can you share some
Mhm.
interesting anecdotes or maybe stories from that
Oh yeah,
research?
there's so many. So I'll say that like uh, I didn't really have any interest in writing about Pacquiao, but when I was doing like preliminary grad school research, people were like, "Oh, you're talking about sports? You must be talking about Pacquiao." And I was like, "No, not really." And then I think it was just kind of unavoidable. Like the more that I talked to folks, the more that they really wanted to talk about him. And so, interestingly enough, um, my undergrad mentor was one of the first, actually, probably the first to write about the relationship of sports and how it was part of the US colonial process. And so that's kind of where I anchor my discussion is that we can't understand someone like Manny, Pac-Man, Pacquiao without understanding this larger context of how sports, the institutionalization of sports, primarily the YMCA and public education, how like it was part and parcel of the colonial project of the Philippines.
Mm.
So before Pacquiao, there were like Filipino boxers in the 20s and 30s that were boxing in the US. And so that allowed me to like put a historical context behind talking about him and like these afterlives of US colonialism in the Philippines still, and the issues that Filipino Americans are like talking about are anchored to that historical context.
Mm.
Um, and so the more that I started doing preliminary research, the more that I was like, all right, I'm probably have to write about him. So I was really reluctant, but I'm definitely glad that I did. But the other reason why I chose like basketball and flag football is because oftentimes Pacquiao becomes this symbol of like Filipino athletic success. But because I've played sports, I grew up playing sports. I'm not going to say that I was like that amazing, but like I've seen what everyday sporting cultures looks like, and especially in basketball and flag football, and the kinds of athleticism that ordinary folks perform on courts or fields. And so that's why I kind of juxtapose the spectacle and every day, because so much of what we see on TV are the spectacles, right? So much of what we see in terms of like who can count as being athletic is only on mainstream networks like ESPN. But what if we look at the everyday and we try to understand what everyday sporting cultures means to communities who are not really written about?
Mm.
And so I make the argument that like obscured in this mainstream sporting imagination are the everyday sporting cultures that I write about. And I think that's why ethnography is really fun to do, because you get to highlight these stories that aren't told often.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a question for you, but before I get to that, in chat, I asked, what is one thing you couldn't live without? So, Silver Pelt writes, as much as younger me would say that I can't live without video games, older me chooses practicality with my glasses. It's true. John
Yep.
said, not that I couldn't literally live without this, but I would choose my guitar. Oh,
Uh,
that's very sweet. Sheila says that focus on the everyday is so important. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Constancio, I was going to ask you, how do you feel about pickleball? I feel like, oh my goodness, do we have pickleball
Sheila, I
in?
have to say this to Sheila. Sheila and I we're colleagues. She's a dear friend, and her name came up recently with my partner because we started getting into pickleball, and like I think it's kind of addicting. So
Yeah. Is that
um,
something you might like write about in the future? Like, do you think this is something, as you write about like everyday, sporting practices and things, is that, how do you feel about, yeah, is pickleball?
I could. I mean, I don't. And folks in the chat could maybe say that they've read an article or something about pickleball, but it is not something that I've seen in the literature. And I don't. I think when we think about pickleball, it's like for older folks. But
Uh-huh.
I've seen at the gym, I've seen younger folks playing. Like I saw a father and a daughter playing, and they were like having a blast. And so, yeah, because I didn't play tennis, and I tried playing tennis, and I was like, why am I hitting the tennis ball like out of the court? because I treated it like baseball.
Uh,
But with pickleball, there's much more like you have to be soft with your touch, from what I
mhm.
understand, and the space is smaller. I've only basically hit a pickleball like 3 times in the last 2 weeks. And so like this is all new to me, but it is really fun. And
Okay.
it's a growing sport.
I have never played pickleball in my life. Maybe when I was in like growing up in school, maybe, but I don't know. But I just feel like recently, right, it's sort of just exploded into like the public imagination and sphere. Like I see articles on it about, like old folks playing. You're absolutely right. Like my boyfriend's mother and his aunt play it like all the time. So I hear stories
Wow.
about how, right, it's bringing people together and like it's a great way for older people to be active, but people of all ages. And this is something I don't understand because I don't play the sport myself, so I don't really understand how it works. But it sounds like, right, you can just kind of just go with your stuff and play with like literal strangers, and it's just everyone's
Yeah.
like super welcoming, and you can like swap in and out. So I love that like communal part of it too. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
I've met a bunch of people already just playing pickleball, and they've been really sweet. And yeah, you're right, generous. And I even heard a story where like somebody just rolled up and didn't have any equipment, no paddle or ball, but like people are like, no, you can, we'll loan our equipment or we'll teach you how to play,
Mm.
right? Like I still don't know the rules, and I messed up a bunch of times practicing the other day, and but it was fine. Like people aren't like, I feel like the hyper competitiveness isn't there, at least where I play or try to practice. But I do hear that there's tournaments and leagues and all that
Mm.
stuff. So
Well, Sheila
yeah.
says, do it. Next project. It's a little bit of peer pressure from her. John says, I only heard of pickleball, until recently. It does seem like fun. And Silver, thank you. The delight on both of your faces at the mention of pickleball, precious. I mean, I
Thank
think
you.
even the name, there's something like delightful about, the name itself, pickleball. I don't even know why it's called
Yeah.
pickleball, but yeah.
Actually, I don't either. I don't
A
know.
lot of questions. So yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up so I could ask you about pickleball, which is very much I feel like like an everyday thing, and
Yeah.
there is a competitive side, but so far it just seems to be like a great like place for people to gather and really welcoming. I hope so.
Hmm.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Um, and again, don't forget you can ask if you have any questions for Constancio or me, feel free to ask them in chat. So Constancio, I wanted to ask you. This is kind of like backtracking a little bit, but I wanted to ask you, what is your background with games? And I think games are sports too, absolutely, or sports are games. Maybe that's something we could talk about in a little bit. But I'm thinking here about like like video games, board games, D&D. Like, did you grow up playing games? Do you play games now? I always like to know what people's experiences are because they're on such a spectrum, and it's fun to
Yeah.
know like what games like what level of gamer you are.
So I used to be into playing video games,
Hmm.
and then I went to grad school, and I was like,
And
if
then I
I
went
keep
to
playing
grad
video
school.
games, then like I'm not going to get any work done. But I used to love playing like especially sports games, like college football games, baseball, um, basketball games. But yeah, I don't own a like, I don't even know what they call it, like a Xbox or
Like
play.
a
I don't own
console,
any of those
yeah.
anymore. Yeah. Um, but I used to love playing like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, the Game Boy, and all that stuff. But at this point in my life, I don't. And part of me, yeah, I get nostalgic whenever I see like my nephews and nieces playing because I'm like, I used to love doing that. Um, as far as board games, I have friends who like literally go to board game cafes
Hmm.
and they play board games. And so we were invited to a friend's house, like maybe like last year, a couple years ago, just to play board games with them, and it was really fun because I didn't, like they treated their bookshelf not as a bookshelf, but as I guess, a board game shelf. So
Uh-huh.
like literally picking a board game out of their bookshelf, which was really interesting. Um, so yeah, I don't play board games often, but when I do, like it's fun. Like, and I think part of it is like sitting down and getting to know people and talking to them too. So
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not gonna move my camera, but I'm thinking like over there you can't see it. I have two bookshelves that are actually board game shelves. So absolutely, I understand. I think I even have like one board game down here at the bottom that
yeah,
people can see. Um, Yeah, I was wondering too, yeah, about sort of the distinction between like games and sports, because now, it's sort of I
Yeah,
feel like the line between video games and sort of like, like professional sports is getting blurred with the addition of esports, like competitive video gaming,
yeah,
like, like with leagues and teams for like millions of dollars. So I even think they broadcast certain like video game tournaments on ESPN. I feel like they do.
they do. Um, I don't venture that into the. I don't venture into like esports too much, but I know that people are writing about it.
Hmm.
Um, and again, that's I think a whole different set of questions that people are asking
Yeah.
because I think for me, when it comes to like sports, like in many ways, it's about the moving body,
Mm.
right? Like basketball, football, baseball. But it's interesting when you're playing esports, it's about like the digitized moving body but you're still controlling it. And so like, um, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I know that like esports is a phenomenon that like people are totally into.
Yeah, I think it's new enough that it's okay to like to not know or to have lots of questions. And did you know even chess?
Yeah.
Like chess, I think is of course a game, a board, very very old game that all of us know about. But I think it's also treated as an e-sport. I know they're like
Wow.
professional like esports teams, and I think one of them signed on what's his name Hikaru. I don't remember his last name, but like a famous chess player, a contemporary chess player, to be on their like esports team and represent TSM or Team Solo Mid at these like tournaments. So there is like chess. Chess can be an esport, with like I think that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was trying to brainstorm games to play with you, I did think about doing, like NBA Jam or something like that very briefly, but I wasn't sure how that might work. So maybe in
Yeah.
the future. But yeah, I don't play a lot of like sports games myself, but it is always interesting seeing people play them, like even Rocket League. Are you familiar with Rocket League? Have you heard of this?
No.
Imagine the game of soccer, but instead of people, you hit the soccer ball with like a race car. So there's race
Wow.
cars driving around like that are like flying into the air and trying to hit the soccer ball into the net. So Rocket League is just soccer with cars as a video game.
I've heard one where it's like, speaking of chess, you play chess for one round and then basketball the next round. I don't know how they score that, or like chess and fighting. I'm not sure, but
There's
like
also like boxing, right?
somehow
Isn't there like boxing chess or something?
maybe that's
Like you
it.
like do a yeah, chess boxing. That's it. John says in chat. There's also chess boxing where you like
Like
do.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that. Like I don't even know how that would work. But
It's
see,
pretty.
there's so much more to write about sports, right?
Yeah, yeah. He says it's pretty fun to watch. I have never seen chess boxing in my life, but now I feel like I should watch it. And that also like ties into, kind of your area of study with boxing. And now I'll just add
Mhm.
chess to it. I
Yeah,
can't even imagine that. Yeah. John, tell us what chess boxing is like. I literally know nothing other than it's chess and boxing, but I don't know the
yeah,
format. Constance, I thought, okay, so we would change topics to, when we were playing the game, we talked a lot about our families growing up in the US and sort of, I think being the child of, immigrants who came to the US, it really leaves an imprint on us. I think there's a lot of questions we have about like, culture and language and identity. Um,
hmm,
so I wanted to maybe think about exploring sort of a little bit of that realm with you further, if you're okay with
sure,
that.
yeah,
So I guess we covered, about, we talked about language and names. And you said when you were growing up, you just found that like one paragraph in a book about like the Philippines or about Filipino culture. Is that right?
hmm.
Yeah. So even now, I mean, do you feel like, I don't know, have you been to the Philippines before, or like what sort of tie do you feel like, you live in the US obviously, but like do you go back a lot, or what is your relationship with like family in the Philippines? I'm curious to know because I know that, I have an interesting history with my family and I'd love to know more about yours.
Sure. Sorry, my dogs are barking. My
You're
door is
okay.
closed, but
You're
um,
fine.
they're just saying hi. Um, yeah, so I've been to the Philippines twice. I went when I was younger. So my dad was diagnosed with cancer, and he wanted us to go back to the Philippines to see where he grew up before he passed away. And then my mom and stepfather, they both retired and they moved to the Philippines. So my partner and I, we went to the Philippines in 2018, and visited my mom and stepfather, and had a great time. Um, so the question about like what my relationship is to the Philippines, I don't know that I have one, to be honest. I mean, I'm an American, right? I'm a second generation Filipino American. I was born in the U.S. Um, but home for me is here,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so my connections to the Philippines are only because of my ethnic identity. That my mom and stepfather are physically there, but like, and you know, food. I don't really have a connection to language, and so I don't know that I have like a firm, like I have to go to the Philippines every year. And I do have friends and other family members that say I have to go back to the Philippines. I want to go back. Um, it was, I think for me, difficult because like the last time I was there, it reminded me of my dad. Um, and it's, it was an experience that allowed me to like maybe connect to like where my mom lives and my stepfather lives. Um, but ultimately, like I have a relationship to the Philippines that is not, it's not like as strong as maybe people might assume that it is. And it's weird. I don't even like, this is the first time I'm actually talking about it. So it's like for me to find the words to like explain it is a
Sure.
little difficult, right? Um, but that doesn't mean that like that I'm completely cutting myself off from the homeland, right?
Right.
Again, like it's my ancestry, right? Like it's allowed me to understand that like I can be an American citizen, but also claim the Philippines and the US simultaneously, right? And so I think that's also part of why I chose this research, is because there is a connection of the US and the Philippines through US colonialism. And so my dad was in the Navy, my mom was a nurse. Both institutions are tied to the Philippines.
Mm.
And so I think that's also how I make sense of like my relationship um, to the Philippines.
No, thank you for sharing all of that. I think I think you put into words some things that I feel, and you're right. You know, it is kind of hard. Like we have these like feeling, complicated feelings about where home is
Yeah.
sometimes, our heritage, and then we don't always get a chance to speak about it necessarily. But yeah, like all of my immediate family is here or in the US, just me, my siblings, and my parents live here kind of half the year. When I started my master's, I think that's when they decided that they're going to move back to Taiwan as my dad was retiring. So all of a sudden, like my parents weren't in
Yeah.
the US anymore, and for the it was a very strange feeling where I felt almost like an international student because it was just me and my brother and my sister. I had like no one else. It was just us in the US. But then, my parents are here half the year. They live very close to my sister, so they can like watch their grandkids. But yeah, I don't know my aunts or uncles or cousins very well. I think there's that, there's like a linguistic and a cultural barrier, and there's always this sort of like longing or wish, that I wish I knew them
Yeah.
better. I wish I could communicate. And I do wonder, when my parents pass away, there is that very real, like, what are we going to do? Is that just like, is that side just lost forever? Like, I don't even know where anyone lives. Like, I wouldn't know where to find, like, my grandmother or my aunt or anyone if you asked me. Like, I don't even know, like, how to contact them. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it's definitely complicated. Um, in chat we got some question or we got some answers to the naming of pickleball. So I guess I'll
All
share
right.
those. So Silver said, in googling why the sport is named pickleball, I discovered a controversy. The men who created it say that it was named after a pickle boat, which is a single person seater long rowing boat, but their neighbors claim that they were there when the creators named it after the family dog Pickles.
I've heard that one. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so yeah, I don't know. It's always funny when there's two ways or more than one way for why something is named. Yeah, I did not expect that either, Silver. John said, yeah, with chess boxing, there's a round of boxing and chess, set amount of rounds, and you win by either knockout or if you lose your king. So it seems like,
Oh,
yeah, how do you, I feel like I don't know much about boxing, but it seems very strange to be like, like physically like trying to like punch someone or something, and then all of a sudden you like take a break and you're like, okay, let me study this board in this like very like non-aggressive way, and then go back to like trying to punch them again. Interesting. But thank you for sharing that. We have a question for you in chat, Constancio.
sure.
Also, John says the chess gets worse as the game goes on. I don't know what that. I don't know how chess gets worse, but thank you for sharing. The question for you is, what is your favorite food or a really special dish that not many people might know about? Maybe that's two
Hmm.
questions. It could be favorite food and a special dish, or it could be one and the same.
So one of my favorite foods is an eggs Benedict. And so part of the reason why, no, the main reason why it's my favorite food is because, again, my late father was a chef in the Navy. And I remember waking up as a kid, him playing like jazz music, and he would make eggs Benedict. And so for those of you that don't know what eggs Benedict is, it's like sourdough muffin, poached egg, a Canadian bacon, and it's kind of stacked on top, and then a hollandaise sauce, which is like egg yolks, butter, and lemon. So I don't eat meat, but I'll still eat eggs. And so when he passed away, like my mom ended up learning how to make it, and so she kind of kept the tradition of eggs Benedict alive. And so yeah, that's tied to my late father, but to my mom, and it's just really, really tasty. It's really good. So that's one of my favorite foods. I think the other is just lumpia, which is pretty much a Filipino spring roll slash egg roll. Um, I've learned how to make it a non-meat way, but also just a vegetable version. And so, yeah, that's one of my favorite foods. It's just when you fry it, eat like it's just a lot of oil and vegetable oil or vegetable oil. And so I try not to eat too much, but that's one of my favorite foods.
I don't think I've ever had lumpia, but I know I have friends who absolutely love it. And what is there anything that distinguishes it from like, any other egg roll? Is it just like the ingredients or what makes it different? Do you know?
I would say it's the ingredients, but then like sometimes I feel like we use the same ingredients that other Asian communities
Yeah.
use. So for me, the way that I usually eat it though is like vinegar, either rice vinegar or just regular vinegar, minced garlic or smashed garlic, pepper, and that's it.
This sounds
Um,
wonderful.
you just dip it and you eat it with rice, and so maybe that might be distinguishing it. But I know that like there's different provinces or areas in the Philippines that eat it differently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, and welcome in, UK London girl. Thank you so much for being here with us today. As we're talking about food, it reminds me, this is again part of why we played Venba, and I think why the game creators made it because food connects us, and as you said, it's kind of like an everyday thing, right?
Yeah.
Making lunch for your husband or a sweet for your son, but there are so many like special memories attached to these moments or connecting you back to your heritage if you're making something. So I just love talking about food. I could talk about food all day long. And speaking of food, we do have another food question for you in chat. So, Constancio, is there a Filipino sweet or dessert that you would recommend?
Yeah, it's called ube halia. So ube is a purple yam. It's like a starch, but a halia is like a cake. And so
Okay.
it's basically an ube cake that has, it's just moist, it's sweet. Um, the texture is like spongy. It's hard to describe, but like my sister-in-law, she brought some like about a month ago, and I was like, and I've had it before. And so when she brought it, because I can't find anything here, you can usually get the ube halia in Southern California. So I think that's one of my favorite sweets is ube halia. Trying trying to think. I mean, I love sweets. Like, give me a pastry, a brownie, a cookie, I'll eat it. So,
So this is, I'm a little bit sad because they're no longer in Vegas. I think they're in Ohio now, but for a while, like when I first moved to Vegas, I went to a bunch of like farmers markets. So I went to like Ferguson's downtown, and then like there's like the Summerlin Farmers Market. Um, there was a vendor, I don't know if you knew about them, but they did the best ube cookies I've ever had. And I think they're also vegan and they're so good. Do you know who I'm
oh,
talking about? But they're no longer in Vegas. That's the thing. They moved like during the pandemic to Ohio. But I just remember like they were so good. I would go
no.
every week if I could just to get a pack because they're like moist, like super prominent ube flavor. And it was, it was like um, like a woman and her husband. It was just like a two-person operation, and they had these like special like cookie packs that you could get.
That sounds
Yeah, I'm
delicious.
sorry that I'm bringing this up, only to say that they're no longer in Vegas. So I apologize for that. But yeah, ube is great. And Silver says, I've heard of that. I've wanted to try it. So yeah, hopefully, I think next time if I ever see something like that, I would love to get it. And absolutely, yes, sweet food is fantastic.
Hmm.
Constancio, I'm going to ask you a question that I like to ask every first time guest on our program. So you may or may not know this is already coming, but Constancio, what do the humanities mean to you? There is no right or wrong answer, but I like to ask people this because the humanities, of course, mean something different to everyone.
Hmm. Wow, what a great and difficult question.
Yeah.
What do the humanities mean? The humanities, what does it mean to me? I think it means understanding complexity, nuance, um, culture, cultural practices. It means understanding difference within communities, ethnic communities, racial groups. Um, but I'd like to think ultimately that the humanities means empathy and compassion. Um, yeah, empathy and compassion.
I think that's
That is a really great question.
it's difficult, right? It's different. Everyone has, some people come at it from like a more, I guess, academic perspective. Some people relate them to personal experiences. I think I like
Mhm.
yours because I think at the root of the humanities, right, is this sort of desire to want to connect to other people and better understand them. So absolutely like empathy and compassion. Sheila says that's a great answer.
Oh, thanks,
And I,
Sheila.
I feel like but yeah, I like to ask people this because, of course, I work for the Nevada Humanities, the Humanities Council, and not everyone knows what the humanities are, and I think that's okay. But I try to ask everyone that so we just get a better picture of what it means. And again, it could mean anything, right? There's philosophy and literature. It could even be, just practices like cooking or crafting, but and then there's also right empathy and compassion, so all of these things weave together, I think, to form the humanities.
Mhm.
um I'm glad that you didn't ask me because I don't know my answer is, so you gotta get I gotta get back to you on that.
Okay. Well, one of the things I loved you introducing me to was humanities to the heart. And so reading the different entries, especially at the height of the pandemic, and trying to understand how people were navigating it and coming up with their own stories. Like I know Sheila wrote a beautiful piece. One of my dear friends, Jose, wrote a beautiful piece about I think his dog,
He did,
Bento.
yeah.
And so like just reading friends, dear friends entries, but also people that I don't know, and like they're not long, not that I don't like reading, but like that they give you enough to imagine what it was like, right? And it I think that's why I chose compassion and empathy, because at that time the pandemic was just roaring, and I think to see how people would narrate their experiences through the everyday was just something really beautiful to read.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm trying to share some links in the chat if people don't mind me sort of like calling them out. So I just shared yours there. I didn't realize you knew Jose. So I'm sharing Jose's piece here. Maybe you were the one who told me about him in the first place. I'm trying to remember. You might have been the one who told me about Jose, but here is
Mm.
his piece about his dog, which is very sweet. Watching this puppy grow up, Bento. Yeah.
And then Sheila wrote something about, I think it was masks,
Masks on. So
right?
I put that link in the
Yeah.
chat. So yeah, this is I guess one of my first projects at Nevada Humanities when I first joined, because April 2020, like right at the very start. And this was a way for all of us to connect even when we couldn't be together in person. We could share these stories about, what life was like for us. So, and I liked, all the
Mhm.
different approaches that people took to sharing those stories. So I
Yeah.
encourage, friends, if you want to read what Constancio wrote, or what he wrote, you can see that in chat, and then same with some of the other folks that he mentioned. I just put those links there for you. I wanted to ask you. Here's another good personal question. What are your top three places or things to do in Nevada?
Oh, love that question. Well, I love to hike. And so I've been to Red Rock, Valley of Fire, Mount Charleston. Zion's a bit far, but Zion was one of the best hiking places I've been to. So hiking would be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you said top three?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a place, this is during the holidays. It's the Cactus Garden.
Huh.
It's at Ethel M. Chocolate in Henderson. And
Oh,
it's
I've
a
always wanted to
chocolate
go
factory.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, but they decorate it with all these like holiday lights, and it's like a family affair. And so you get to see the different cacti. And so because I love plants and like trying to imagine, I guess, our yard and the landscape that we want to build, like gives me inspiration. Um, the third, I think, is like we just went to Springs Preserve, and I've been there a couple times, but I also love looking at plants and cacti and learning about Vegas's natural environment.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say those are the top three. I mean, there's so much more, but those are the top three.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, we're coming to the end of our time here together, so I wanted to make sure I asked you at least those two questions before we say goodbye today. So if anyone has any last questions for Constancio, please feel free to ask them in chat. Um, do you have any, I know you have your book coming out soon, but do you have any other, projects or things that you're hoping to work on next that you could share with us? Pickleball?
Oh, maybe pickleball. Um, I think I'm just so focused on my book that I don't have the bandwidth to think about another project. But I will say it might be about food. I'm not
Okay.
sure. Um, maybe pickleball, because that does sound like a really fun project, and it's such a new sport for me that I want to learn about it first. So yeah, nothing in the offing other than the book.
No, that's fair. I think I hope she doesn't mind me like calling her. I spoke to Sheila recently. I was also asking like a similar, like, do you have any upcoming, things or things that you would like to work on next? And I think, when you have a book that's about to come out or that you're working on it now, right? All of your attention is on it. Yeah, and Sheila says totally fair, so she gets it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said you have what, 10 weeks, 12 weeks? Is it 10 weeks to work on it or finish?
Well, so basically 2 weeks.
Two weeks. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well, I thought it was
it's
much less than
fine.
10 or 12.
Um, yeah, I will share this. Like, writing a book is hard, and I think for those of you that have written a book, Sheila, like you can attest. But then, like, I don't know, for some reason, I'm having a hard time with the acknowledgments because
Mm.
I want to make sure I honor the people that have been a part of this journey and make sure that I thank them the right way. And so, like, wow, I didn't realize like how difficult it is to like acknowledge the people that like have been so important to me. And you know, that's what I'm thinking about these last couple of days. But then also just adding final touches to reviewers' feedback and all that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you sharing all of that with us, and I wish you the best of luck. When your book is out, we'll absolutely make sure to share it on our program, or maybe we can do another stream with you where we talk about it. Yeah, Silver asks, yeah, so were the acknowledgments the biggest hurdle in writing your book, or is there something else, or
It is a hurdle right now. Like I'm still working on it.
yeah,
I wouldn't say it's a hurdle. It's just like I think I'm putting pressure on myself because I want to make sure that I honor and acknowledge all the people that have been part of this journey. And so
yeah, you
while
don't want to
people
forget
might think,
anyone.
yeah, like writing a book is very much in, it feels like it's in isolation. Like there are so many people that have helped me, encouraged me, advocated for me, offered to read, that it's never just about me. It's also about the other people, my friends, family, um, that have been a part of this journey. And so I think it's just me putting a lot of pressure on myself, but that's okay. Like I'd rather have this issue than like having to write my first word of a book, right? Like so, um, I'm kind of like giving myself a hard time, even though um, deep down I probably shouldn't, because it's this is my way of saying thank you. You know.
I think it just shows that, you're just very thoughtful about, not wanting to, yeah, to leave people out, and that you're giving the proper acknowledgments, literal acknowledgments to everyone who's been
Yeah.
there and supported you. Yeah, so Silver writes, completely understandable. Thank you for sharing or answering. Are there any last thoughts you'd like to share with our friends in chat today before we leave? What a stream. I think thank you for Constancio for your patience as we learned how to make two recipes together, right?
Yeah.
I gotta Google these, and I want this sort of like rocket confectionery too. That looks really delicious with the coconut and the
Yeah.
rice flour. But yeah, if
I
you,
love the game. It was such a great game. And to like interweave like our personal experiences and making it relevant to the game, but also hopefully the audience understood some of the ways that we connected to it. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, I hope to have you back on someday, if we didn't, scar you from this experience. I had a great time, and
yeah.
I would love to, yeah, continue this story and find out what happens next. So I guess I'll just say for everyone here in chat today, we have another stream tomorrow, which is Thursday, August 17th at 6 p.m. Pacific. I'm really excited for this one because we're going to be playing a throwback game. So it's going to be Sid Meier's Pirates. So I guess the original game came out, I want to say in 1987, maybe for the NES, but this is a remake that came out for the PC in 2004, which is still, gosh, 19 years ago. So it's an older game, but
Wow.
I know a lot of people grew up playing this game or have some sort of like memory playing it. So I'm excited to play this with Christopher M. Church from the University of Nevada, Reno, who is a returning guest in our program. He previously played the Black Death scenario from Civilization 6 with us, but Christopher teaches a course on pirates, is a huge pirate enthusiast
Ooh.
at UNR. So yeah, really excited for that. And we'll be talking, a little bit about the romanticization of pirates in the Caribbean, about geopolitics in the 1600s. But also, I think it'll be fun, right? We can ask them all the pirate questions, and then we also have like a pretty full lineup in the weeks to come. So I encourage everyone to check out our schedule. We always have. I try to keep the list of events as updated as I can on our Twitch, but you can also find them on our website. And we're also trying to add more videos to our YouTube channel, so those will be updated soon as well. Um, yeah, so I just want to thank you again, Constancio. Thank you again so much for being a guest today. Would love to have you back. I wish you all the best with your book. Can't wait to read it and learn more. And um, yeah, to everyone else in chat, I hope you had a good time today. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. But otherwise, hope to see you next time. Okay, we're gonna say goodbye to you now.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.